After choosing a topic, I really hope that you will spend the time to think deeply about it. I really hope that you will think deeply about what you already know, what you are looking for on the internet, how you are going to analyze what you think and what you find, and also presenting in a deep way to your classmates. But I know it's not always easy. That's why in this class I am giving you 2 ways to help you think more efficiently or more deeply. The other group of students will explain to you step 1, which is think offline. Think not connected to the internet. There are 2 main points that they will hopefully be able to explain to you in detail. Your section is step 2, think online. Think on the internet. My first recommendation is check your sources. Who wrote this? Where was it written? When was it written? With these pieces of information, you will be able to know what's true, or at least what part of the truth the information represents, right? So check your sources. Let me give you an example about checking sources. Let's say that for my presentation, I chose the category people. And in people, I chose to talk to you about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He is the spiritual leader of Tibetans. This is a man that I respect immensely, and I really want people to know about him. So I'm going online and I find news. This piece of news made me really shocked. My heart felt like it stopped beating when I read the title. Basically, the title says, "Official calls remarks by Dalai Lama blasphemy." And blasphemy means that you say something about religion or spiritual life that is really shocking. And as I said, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he is a spiritual leader. So my heart stopped because I just could not understand. Why did he say something this bad? However, I quickly checked the source, and the source is a Chinese newspaper, the China Daily. Actually, the Chinese government hates the Dalai Lama. So it's not really surprising that they might say things about him that are shocking and maybe not completely true. But the person who said this in the newspaper article is described as a senior Tibetan official. His name is Padma Choling, and he is the chairman of the Standing Committee of the Tibetan Autonomous Regions People's Congress. So how can I say this? Tibet is now a region of China, and he's kind of the leader of this region. So yes, Padma Choling is Tibetan, but I don't think it's fair to say that he represents all Tibetans. He represents the Chinese government in Tibet. So I did some research on Padma Choling, and actually in an article in India Today, he is described as the CPC, so the Chinese Communist Party, appointed governor of the Tibet Autonomous Region. Right? So I was not mistaken, but I wanted to make sure, so I did some research, extra research, to make sure that I understood who Padma Choling is. In addition to my perspective on His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I got a perspective from the Chinese government about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that he says things that are not right according to him. And these different perspectives are, in this situation, different truth, but they help me better understand the situation. And in the end, this helps me be not so emotional, right? Like my heart stopped beating because I was shocked, right? It helps me understand who says what and why they might be saying what they say. And this is what I mean by checking sources. Sometimes you might find information that make you really shocked, but double check who is saying this and why might they be saying this. Yes, my first advice when you think online is to check sources. And the next one is something that might be a little tricky because it looks so similar in terms of words. But there is something you need to keep in mind when you're doing online research. It's the difference between group thinking and group think. Group thinking is positive because you can learn from others. You can expand or increase your point of view, right? So you're communicating with others or you're reading what others wrote, and this allows you to see more of the world or more of the truth. So group thinking is helpful. However, groupthink is a negative expression because in this case it means that we all think the same thing. So there is no, ooh, you're teaching me something new. It's, ooh, I think the same way and you think the same way and he thinks the same way and she thinks the same way. So yes, group thinking and groupthink are very different. And when you're looking online for information, you need to ask yourself the question, is this group thinking or is this groupthink? And hopefully the one you want is group thinking, learning from others. I have this picture to represent group thinking, right? You have all these different individuals and they are communicating ideas, have questions, and they're thinking together to maybe even solve a problem, right? So group thinking. You can learn from others. You can expand your point of view. On the other hand, and I'm sorry if the picture is scary, you have group think, where everybody is thinking exactly the same thing because they're connected to the same source of information and they do not try to think for themselves. Group think. We all think the same thing. So hopefully, as I said earlier, I hope that the one you are attracted to is this one, communicating, learning from others, and not this one, thinking like everybody else. I have a very interesting quote by a professor, Anthony Aguirre, about the internet. He says about the internet, it may be better to think of the internet not as an extra bit of your brain, but as a library. Somewhere we occasionally go to gather raw materials that we can take away somewhere else where we have time and space to think and to be bewildered so that we can create an opportunity for something really interesting to happen. So basically, what he is saying is that the internet is not your brain. You have your own brain to use to think. You don't need the internet to think for you. But it is an amazing place where you can get information, right? It's like a modern library. You can get all these materials or pieces of information. But this is just something you take and then you go offline and you take time to think about it for yourself and to be amazed. That's another way of explaining bewildered. To be amazed at what you found. But again, the internet is not your brain. You have your own brain to think. So these are my two pieces of advice regarding your part of the thinking more deeply about your topic, which is think online. Check your sources and keep in mind that what you find might be group thinking, which is good because it's several people's opinion, or it might be groupthink, the fact that everybody thinks the same way and are not critical. So next, you will learn from a classmate about step 1, which is think offline. Thank you for your attention.